For 50 grand, they're gonna come fix the field.
Yeah, I'm
For-
sure.
For 5, they might not.
For 5, they probably eat it.
Yeah.
I'm out of town, that's it. Well,
They'll love it. Pat,
Keith, meet you.
That's Gary over there.
Gary Flynn, nice to meet you.
who's on the committee now? Us, Raj, and who else?
Members of the committee, this before the meeting opens.
Keith, are you citizen or from the board?
I'm on
Okay.
something with the
Thank you.
parks. I forget what the,
Can't see anymore.
We are live. Okay.
Oh, no, you're as a resident.
was it resident? Where?
Yeah.
Is Timmy coming,
Is the,
now that he quit the parks?
what is it, 5? 5 residents?
5 residents, 1's vacant, but Tim, I have a feeling he's gonna say, I don't wanna be on this committee anymore, because he's no longer working for Parks Department.
So there's 5 residents, 2 selectmen, and 2 parks commissioners is what makes up the committee. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. This is the meeting of the West Boylston Parks Facilities Committee. We have not met in some time. There are a number of items that we need to take care of in terms of housekeeping, since we haven't met. The first item that I'd like to discuss is the committee reorganization. We have had some members that have left. We have an open vacancy currently. So if anyone is interested in filling that position, please send your information to the town administrator, and we'd be interested in having you on our committee. Since we haven't met, we'd like to discuss the committee reorganization. We are in current need and in terms of discussion for chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. Are there any statements from any of the committee members, or are there any nominations to fill?
Could you, for the new people, explain who currently hold those
Okay.
positions, if one of them's not a vacant person?
I am Patrick Inderwish. I'm the chairman of the committee currently. The vice chair, the secretary's position, the treasurers are all vacant at this time. Those individuals are no longer on the committee.
You wanna be the chair again?
I don't mind.
I'll nominate Mr. Inderwish to be the chair.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried.
Nominate Mr. Rajesh Kumar to be the secretary.
Second.
Raj, you okay? Oh,
Any additional discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried. Vice Chair?
Nominate Pat,
That's fine.
Mr. Crowley's been nominated as Vice Chair. Is there a second?
unless, Jim, you want it.
I'll take it.
Okay. I renege that.
You withdraw?
I withdraw that, and I put Mr. Padone up for,
Mr. Bedoni as Vice Chair. There's a second. Any additional discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Those opposed? All right.
we don't have any custodianship of funds. Why do we need a treasurer?
We may have some custodianship of some funds.
How?
So we're gonna have some discussion on that tonight.
Okay.
Is there any nominations for someone to fill the position as treasurer? Keith, would you be interested in
With that, nominate the finance guy, Pat Riley.
Mr. Crowley? All right. Mr. Crowley's been nominated. Is there a second?
Second.
Additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so we do have some positions that are now filled on our committee. The first items that we'd like to discuss is the ongoing Goodell Park Master Plan Construction Estimate Update and the master plan itself. There are some remaining funds from our original allocation for the project in the master plan that was approved at town meeting. And I think it's in our interest that we get an updated construction estimate from the architect on phases 1 through 4 with those remaining dollars. Is there any discussion on that item?
So I think we're being a little premature on that, because if we get the estimates, great, we're gonna know what it's gonna cost. But we don't have a funding source. I think we need to either get the money from the town, from the bond bill released, or get the selectmen to agree, yes, we're gonna bring this forward at a town meeting. Once we have one of those two things done, now we need the estimate. For us to do the estimate now and haven't gone before the Board of Selectmen to say, we wanna move this forward, or don't have the $5 million, we're gonna have estimates, great, we're gonna know what it's gonna cost in 2019 dollars, and we're gonna be sitting here in 2022 saying we need to update the estimates.
Sure. So it's cart before the horse then?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Any additional comments? Before we do that, can you give us an update on the letter that the town sent to the new Secretary of Environmental Affairs?
Yeah, we sent a letter to the Secretary of Environmental Affairs, that's all we have, we haven't.
There's been no communication?
I haven't followed up with Nancy to see if she responded, but how these things normally work, I would venture a guess that no, we have not received a response. Right before the meeting, I did send a message to Brent, that,
Okay.
to see if because he knows her, see if he could speak to her.
Has our state representative or our state senator been made aware of this letter, and are they going to write in support of this request?
We've asked them, on multiple occasions, to see what they can do, and it's fallen on deaf ears. Oh, we can't do that, there's no money for that now, is the answer we've gotten. They are due to come before us, they have been invited, I don't know exactly when, but before the end of the year, let's put it that way. I know they're on a future agenda, it might be before town meeting, where we're inviting them to come, and we always ask that question, and they don't get.
Could this committee, through our town administrator, have her request the possibility of letters being written from the representative and the senator?
No, so why not?
I think that the longer we wait, the more it falls on deaf ears.
Want me to make that, I could make that request on behalf of the committee.
If you could, because I think, since it's a timely matter and it's been done recently, we don't want it to fall on deaf ears, and that bond bill did include $5 million for Goodale Park.
Do we want to have a letter that's drafted and signed by this committee, as well as the selectmen, as well as the parks? You want all three committees to?
That's probably a good idea.
Absolutely. If the town administrator could draft something for our review, I think that would be great.
Obviously, I think we should take a vote.
Okay, all right. Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to ask the town administrator to draft a letter for us to sign, and ask the Board of Selectmen and the Parks Commission to also sign off on the letter to the new Energy Secretary to get the $5 million released.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion is carried.
Who's taking minutes?
Well, our new secretary is
Not here.
indisposed. Okay, next item on our agenda is a request from the Parks Commission. The Parks Commission has requested that the Parks Facilities Committee look at and study and make recommendations for the renovations of the Mixter Field and Woodland Park. Obviously, the existing conditions of the Mixter Field and Woodland Park have become substandard. We have issues due to the construction of the senior center, and we look at what the existing conditions were prior to the construction of the senior center, and has that playing field been brought back to its original condition, which is a matter for discussion. We have issues with drainage at Woodland Park and the condition of the tennis and basketball courts at Woodland Park.
Are they permanently closed, tennis basketball courts?
Tennis courts are permanently closed, because the asphalt is just eroded and, yeah,
It's crappy,
and that's, it's not safe, and there's really no,
Need for it, you have the-
but there's no purpose to do anything with it, because anything with it would just really be a waste, because there's some underlying problem underneath that we need to understand.
So previous to our meeting, the former town administrator had requested a meeting with myself and the chairman of the Parks Commission. And we discussed what was going on at Mixter Field and what was going on at Woodland Park. And in addition to that, prior to that meeting, we had requested some documents from the town. And obviously, the as-bills are not done as of yet for Woodland Park, for Mixter Field, or the Mixter area, or the senior center itself, which encompasses Mixter Field. And we were only able to locate the sewer connection drawings for Woodland Park. It's my understanding, and I know I have seen, that our former DPW director was in possession of drawings when the former renovations were done to Woodland Park. Those are still, we're still trying to find those, and I would ask again to the town administrator that she requests from our interim DPW director to locate those drawings so they can be useful to us in evaluating what we need to do as a committee for any potential Woodland Park renovation.
You have this, you just have the sewer at Woodland Park, you're saying?
That's correct.
But you don't have any of the other, subsurface stuff?
I do not. No existing utility surveys. All I have is the locations of the lateral there. But what I do have are the site plan drawings that were done prior to construction at the new senior center. Obviously, we would like to have a copy sooner than later of the as-built drawings.
The as-bills are gonna be,
I guess a month out.
the as-bills are gonna be done, I would imagine, shortly, because there's money being held for those as-bills. So I would anticipate very soon that the contractor is gonna fork those over, if he hasn't done it already.
If you would, just for discussion purposes, let's talk about Mixter Field first. All right? The Mixter Field, and I got a picture here of Mixter Field prior to the construction of the senior center. Obviously, there are multiple uses for that field, which the Parks, Chair of the Parks Commission can discuss with us. But it is in desperate need of renovation because in terms of a softball field, it's become unusable. In terms of a soccer field, it's barely usable. In terms of drainage, water ponds constantly out that field. And there are existing subsurface conditions that need to be investigated. And if we are to bring this field back, as the Parks Commission has requested, to a playable, how should I say, a playable condition, a major renovation would have to be done.
When you say playable condition, you're not talking about what it was before this started. You're talking, so there's no ducks in the pond that comes out.
Well, if you want me to go now, I can explain, we have ideas of what we'd like to see it look like, would be a redesign of the field.
But I just mean, as far as playable, you're not saying, it will be brought back to the way it was before the construction started. That there's more than enough money being withheld from the contractor. The contractor's well aware that we're not accepting the field as it is, so it's gonna get back to, hopefully it'll be ready, I don't know now, because they missed this growing season. Hopefully it'll be ready for the T-ball at least for next year. After that, I'm assuming that's not what you meant, just back.
Right, right.
Okay.
Any additional comments? All right, in our discussions with the Parks Commission and the former town administrator, in terms of what renovations we had discussed, was to reorient the field itself. So if we were to take home plate and the backstop and move it to the northwest corner, which would be along Prescott Street, and have the outfield at the area of where the new parking lot and driveway area is, we would ask that whoever the potential designer would be, that would be one option. It would be all with new fencing. It would be all with new clay material within the infield, and new loom and subsurface material in the outfield. Again, netting, making sure that we aren't impeding again, or impeding in any way, I should say, on the abutters. With the parking reconfiguration that was done for the senior center, that may present some challenges, but it was, we want to be able to investigate being able to reorient home plate at this area. There are two challenges if that is to be done. One, there is one existing electrical pole that will need to be relocated closer to the street than what it is now. And there's a distribution box that would be probably within the first base path that may have to be relocated as well.
That pole that you're talking about that needs to be relocated closer to the street, I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was we asked, why is that pole there? There was a discussion with a 6-foot setback that was required. So I don't know that we can't, but when we asked the contractor for the senior center, why'd you put that pole there? And it's not in the baseline right now, but it does prevent a.
Potentially it could be. if we
Right,
want.
but I'm saying as it's laid out now, it's not an issue.
Right.
But I don't know that that pole I don't think we can just move that 6 feet back. I'm sure something can be done.
There's an existing stone wall there that takes up some amount of feet,
Okay.
okay, that's in the way of that 6-foot setback. So that's something else we want to consider when we.
Is that,
talk to the
I don't know,
designer.
I'm not a construction guy, is that a rule, that the poles have to be 6 feet, new poles, 6 feet off?
There is a setback rule, so I don't know the exact, but, yes, because we want it out of the line of traffic as well.
You definitely think, you don't want cars running.
Exactly. And so this was one of our discussions. I would encourage anybody who's interested to go up and take a look at where we're at now and where we would like to be in terms of the request of the Parks Commission.
Do we know how far it would be down the third base line if we reoriented, or, you know?
Third baseline would be great.
You know, really, left field, from home plate to left field, how close are we getting to, I have no idea.
So we're talking about fencing and netting.
Right, but I mean, is it 200 feet, 300 feet, 100 feet, it's not 100 feet.
It depends on what the Parks
Probably not
Commission
300,
would
no.
like to have, and what can fit within that space. Can we get a full softball field in there with those dimensions? That's.
Ideally, I'd like a replica of what we have over here on Goodale Street,
I
Goodale
don't think
Crescent.
there's enough room there.
Present.
It might not be enough for the fence. So today, the way it is it's about 145 feet from home plate to that wall. today's first baseline.
You're saying from here to here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't physically measured it, but I've been given that number. So my idea is, you know, even if you have to come off a little bit and angle it to take up some of that extra space.
You could offset it.
And then I'm thinking, as of looking at some of these drawings, I don't know the measurements and if it's possible, but it might even be better to put the home plate here by the entrance and go out.
You could go here, go here, and then go out this way.
The only you have to.
Then this is foul territory.
Correct, correct.
What's that?
Again, it's
Yeah.
up to the architect to see what's the best fit. I'm sorry?
The sign that they put out there,
Yeah, that's gonna have to be moved back, because that would be in the field of play. I don't know what the purpose of the island was at the entrance. I don't
This,
know.
you mean the island, this right here?
Yeah,
it's just traffic.
not this one, the ones here at
That's just
Prescott
traffic
Street.
control. That's just so that when people are
Was that a
coming in.
requirement of the planning board or not?
You're asking me for the nitty-gritty details of
That's-
the parking lot.
Okay. Because that's gonna be a challenge too. And, something we wanna take a look at. We'll have, you know, if we so decide to have an architect move forward, you know, we go for funding for an architect, that would be something he would consider. But obviously, we have multiple uses on the parcel. We've lost them to date. We wanna be able to bring that field back into a usable manner, and we wanna improve it so that it's, for future generations to come, are gonna be able to use this thing. Because right now, you know, there's no softball being played. There's not gonna be any soccer being played on that thing until we get into a usable, a condition. The other thing was, that we discussed at our meeting with the former town administrator was, that, you know, what kind of materials are we gonna bring in? You know, we need to obviously bring the field up to a higher grade than what it is now. We had to deal with drainage on this. So we have, again, multiple uses, ladies softball field, ladies softball, youth softball, t-ball, and soccer. Is that my understanding?
Possibly coach pitch.
Did the women's softball ever play at this field?
Yes, and they haven't been able to in years, actually.
correct.
They have to rent the field over in Sterling.
Yeah, so we end up
Because
giving
of
them a discount. We only charge them for 3/4 of their participants, because a quarter of them goes to Sterling, and they have to pay them.
The other thing we discussed was dugouts.
Right.
And we felt, at least from our inspections, that there potentially could be enough room to put in dugouts up there. And there was a discussion on sanitary facilities and what is the availability of the bathrooms to be used at the senior center. And I guess that's for future discussion.
Right, I think when you and I met with the town administrator, we kind of wanted, or at least my point of view, I think you shared the same one, was to get it a cost of what these things would be, kind of, you know, the highest level, and then we can scale back as we see fit, but at least know what the costs were before making a decision.
Absolutely.
When you say cost, are you looking for hey, we're gonna spend a couple of grand, somebody's gonna tell us we think this is what it would cost, or are you looking for, let's, you know, put some holes in the ground and spend real money to come up with a
Yeah,
cost?
on engineering design cost, yeah.
So, I think, and again, we're gonna talk about Woodland as well, because those, mixture and Woodland, have become a priority for the Parks Commission, because the conditions, the existing conditions that are there. I'm thinking, and out loud here, is that we would put mixture and Woodland in one package together, all right? Two individual packages to go out to bid, as we always know, two separate bids are gonna be higher than one bid together. And again, for site analysis, design development plans, construction documents, cost estimates, construction observation, and improvements to the parks. first phase, and then we can put the job out to bid. I think if we encompass all those services between what we've already discussed at Mixter and what we're gonna discuss at Woodland, I think if we package that all in together, and we're gonna get a better bang for the buck than we would if they were bid out separately.
Are you gonna stipulate that you have to, stagger the work?
In conjunction at the same time. As long as it meets the needs of what the Parks Commission requires.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how are you gonna take out two of the
Yeah,
primary,
really-
we're already
really-
down one.
The only concern is the current is, Woodland's usage, and how we schedule around
You
that.
gotta schedule it right.
If you lose Woodland and this, not that this is.
But technically, we've already lost
Yeah,
Mixter, so
we
I think
lost
what Keith is
Mixter.
saying is
Yeah,
just
we-
we're
Mixer's
already down
done.
one and we're dealing with that as is, so now it's not.
We haven't lost Mixter for youth soccer.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
haven't been able to play since,
Let's assume that this is gonna be ready to go now, I mean, yes, you lost it for the last 2 years because of construction.
right,
If we do nothing, this field's coming back.
sure.
So, I mean, assuming you have this field,
I think the point is if we do have that field, doing both of them simultaneously will now take us down to.
not losing seasons.
Well, yeah, depending on when you do it, right. I mean, Woodlands used pretty much, fall and spring. If you did Mixter, well, and technically speaking, we could probably use some other field in the spring for Woodland for soccer, because the school's not using, Goodale's, for example. So probably some flexibility in the spring, but when the fall comes around, it'll be a different story.
I will tell you from a selling it standpoint, I'm not saying that either one of them is gonna fly, but if we go to the Board of Selectmen and say, we just did this project, we left this out of it, we wanna now tear this up and redo it, they're gonna say no. If we focus on Woodland first, I think you'll have it'll be much more receptive, saying, because why wasn't, I've asked this question a bunch of times, why wasn't this included in this project? You were at meetings when the question was asked, and the answer was, it's outside the scope of this project, we're not doing it.
Who made that determination it was out of the scope?
The FISP committee as a whole,
And using what criteria?
that the,
It was
What
on the
was
same
put- what was-
parcel.
no, what was put out to bid, what was put before town meeting, did not include redoing all of the drainage and putting money into athletic fields.
But we did tear it up to bring the electrical
I
lines
understand.
through it.
And the part of the bid was, this is just,
No,
I'm not saying I agree with this, this is what happened. Part of the bid process was, this field needs to be returned to its existing condition. We had discussions about doing all the drainage on this field, we had discussions about putting, in the great room in the senior center, having retractable, basketball hoops, so that you can put them up during the evenings, you have them down, there'll be another basketball court. Discussions about exterior, facilities, every single one of them got shot down. Between the FISP committee and the seniors. Frankly, the senior, yes, it was built as a community center, the seniors wanted no part of the community center. This was for them, and they didn't wanna share with anybody.
So what's the potential that if we go ahead and go forward with the mixed renovation, that the sanitary facilities at the senior center will be available to the users?
I don't know. That's outside of, the FISP committee.
Because in the open space and recreation plan, one of the goals is to make sure we have sanitary facilities at our fields.
Understood.
Because we just spent $5.7 million, I think that that those sanitary facilities
We are.
should be incorporated into.
The Council on Aging is in the process of developing, we were given hey, this has been approved, list of, this is what the fees are, and I don't know what was on them, but I said, approved by who? Council on Aging hadn't looked at them, we hadn't looked at it, so we said, no. Push back, the Council on Aging is looking at what are the fees to use these fields. Is the
Why are they concerned
Not
about
the
the
field, I'm
fees?
sorry, to use the facility, the senior center.
Well, doesn't all the taxpayers pay for that?
Yeah, but after hours, if you have to open up the building after hours, then now you gotta pay a janitor to, you know, we're talking about if you wanna meet there. We don't know, the answer is, we pushed back and said, no, you're not gonna, this fee schedule's not gonna work. Is there gonna be the potential for the bathrooms in the senior center to be used while those fields are being used? Yes, absolutely. Is it going to be approved? I don't know. I can't-
Ultimately, who has the ultimate approval? Board of Selectmen or FISC?
No, the FISP has nothing to do
Okay,
with this.
so Board of Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen or the Council on Aging?
My understanding is it's a town-owned building, it's the Board of
Yeah, so it would be us.
Selectmen.
Okay, Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
So anybody's interested could reach out.
There is
The Board
going
of
to be a fee schedule as far as, you know, it does cost money to open up a building after hours. You wanna use the school after hours, anybody's welcome to use it, you gotta pay for the janitor. As far as what the fee schedule would be, I don't know.
That's something that could be incorporated through the Parks Commission
Yeah.
in conjunction
Would
with.
would there be hey, we're gonna have a Little League, you know, there's probably 300 people that know how to get into this building after hours. I haven't seen the building get trashed. Is the potential gonna be there? The pushback is gonna be, you have a kitchen, safe serve, and how do we know that people didn't go into the kitchen?
Is there ways to isolate those
These
sections?
are the things that are gonna have to be worked out. I think it would be a shame if the answer is, no, we can't use this building, the restrooms, the hard stand facilities in this building. Flip side of that was, we couldn't when it was mixed there.
Because the building was falling down.
No, but before it was falling down, we couldn't use, the Little League and the soccer couldn't go into mixer and use the bathroom. It wasn't open then.
And that might be different because it was a school.
No, this one was at
Well,
town hall.
it was a
This one in town hall.
And it was closed and it was not open to the public, so.
I mean, there's a lot of items for discussion on those issues, but in terms of the concept and what the Parks Commission has requested.
If you go back to your original statement about that field and the project, are you for or against doing it as one? For
I
what
would-
reason?
I would be hesitant to touch this project, you know, as the next thing we do, because we're still trying to get this field put back to the condition it was in. You go to the Board of Selectmen, and I can't speak for the whole board, but if you go to the Board of Selectmen and say, we now wanna, the next project we wanna look at is we wanna rip this up, even though we just had contractors there, this could have been done then, we wanna now go back to the town and we wanna rip up this field, they're gonna look at us and say, what the hell's wrong with you?
But I guess, so my answer to that is, we did try to, and in the
I understand.
beginning, number one, and number two, it's been inadequate for years,
But-
several years, decades.
What I'm not saying that it wouldn't be approved, or it wouldn't move forward. What I'm telling you is we're gonna, as a committee, we're gonna have an easier time saying, let's do Woodland first. There's gotta be scheduling conflicts if we do them both. I'm sure it's nothing that can't be worked out, but as a committee, my recommendation, I think we're gonna have an easier time doing Woodland first, getting that done, and then attempting this. But I'm
So-
one member of a committee, and
Okay,
I
my
can certainly be out.
rebuttal to that is, if the site work contractor is able and willing to bring the mixture field back to its original condition prior to construction.
That's part of his contract, he has to.
Well, that doesn't always happen.
Then he's not getting paid.
Again, and then it gets litigated, and it just sits. If he brings it back to that condition, is that field still unplayable?
Yeah, the softball field area is not adequate for any kind of play, really. I mean, that's my biggest problem. I mean, as much as I really wanna do things at Woodland, and that was spun up primarily because of this fall, and this spring and last fall's rain, and the field is just, and the problems at the courts. Softball has one field to use with amongst all of the organizations. It's nearly impossible to get practice time on that field. The high school girls use it. Multiple youth teams use it in all the games there. Middle school, yeah, JV. So that's my issue.
If that's the biggest issue, if that's the biggest need, I'm not against it. I'm just telling you the pushback you're gonna get if you try to tear up this field 2 years after we, a year and a half after we got it back to where it was. I think you're gonna get pushback. That's all. I'm not saying we shouldn't.
What's our alternative?
What was the question?
The alternative.
What's our alternative?
Could you develop a softball field as part of a woodland redesign?
I think you're gonna run into conflict with, soccer as far as use.
I think so too.
I mean, do we need tennis courts in woodland?
Well,
We're gonna talk about Woodland in a second, and the Parks Commission has an alternative to those courts.
But maybe it's time to open up and talk about Woodland, because, one, we know that we have a lot of challenges at Woodland. Our biggest being drainage, and being the subsurface material that's underneath the field when it was originally constructed. I mean, there's a potential that there's organics in the soil, all that's gonna have to be ripped up, and all new material brought in. And obviously, again, drainage. We have a line of sight problem with parking and exiting the parking lot. We discussed with the former town administrator the addition of some parking spaces based upon a small redesign. I'll let you, or I would request that you share with the members what your plans are for, what the Parks Commission's plans are for the tennis and basketball courts.
So the thought is due to the tennis and basketball courts at Gooddale, I don't think we necessarily need more of them. And I think it would be a good use of space, or the committee thinks it would be a good use of space to look at what the costs and feasibility of a deck hockey facility would be.
So we basically have I won't say it's an arena, but it is enclosed, it's outdoor. There are multiple different surfaces that apply to deck hockey, flooring. You're able to use it 3/4 of the year round. In terms of manufacturers and costs and that kind of thing, we'd have to look into, especially in terms of designs and that kind of thing, in conjunction with what really needs to be done with the parking and the improvement of the existing soccer field. Am I correct in my statement?
You just take away the courts, right?
Basically, yeah.
Just rip them out,
Essentially, I mean, it's the high level idea. Obviously, it's, the other challenge that we discussed earlier is what's underneath those courts. So, right now, we believe that the issues we have with the tennis courts is an eroding foundation from the old school that was at Woodland. So we need to really know what's under there and fix it properly.
It's the old foundation from the school. Sorry.
We have just about 6
PPR
acres.
whole thing.
Yeah,
When was the last time that was actually done over there, if ever?
I have no idea.
What was the question last time?
When was the last time GPR was done in that field area? You did down penetrating radar to see what's under it?
So, that's
That's gonna be
why
my question
I'm
with
trying
PPR.
to obtain drawings from the interim DPW director or new DPW director, whatever happens at this point in time, because I know the drawings exist. Part of the engineer and landscape architect's duties, if we were so to decide on that tonight, would be to do some borings, some test pits, and do some soil evaluations, so we know what existing today, and if we do need to remove all that material or not. I mean, that would be, you know, what's going on with the soils there. Obviously, we know there's no infiltration going on. I mean, the Parks Commission, I remember, had spent money where we did deep borings with a machine to try to open that field up some years ago, and we didn't get much success out of that. So, that's one thing. Let me take one step back and just finish up on Mixer, if you don't mind. So, back in September of last year, which I didn't receive until, I want to say October, November, there was a preliminary estimate done by Place Associates on Mixter to basically take care of the architectural engineering services for Mixter, if we were to do a renovation of it. There were a number of items, and I will share this with the committee and I'll share it to the public. You know, it's project setup, conceptual design for a new softball field. They would give us 2 designs, meetings with the Parks Commission and us to review designs, design development with plans for cost estimating, construction documentation preparation, permitting, bid support. So bottom line, what are we talking?
Plans for cost estimating or actual cost estimate?
Cost estimates,
Okay.
actual cost estimate. So they came up last year with a total cost of about $13,000.
That includes borings?
It does not. It does not. That would be in addition to what their scope of work would be. And I think what we need to do is, as a committee, is go through what they proposed and mark it up and come back and have another meeting and decide on what the actual scope of work really should be and get an updated estimate on that one.
When is this dated?
September 11th, 2018.
Okay, so it's not that long.
Not that old. In terms of Woodland and putting together a defined scope of work, making sure that we're all on the same page with the Parks Commission, what their needs are and that kind of thing. You know, addressing drainage, addressing parking, addressing site work, addressing fencing, addressing netting, addressing the complexities of what a deck hockey area may be and what are the maintenance factors within that and maintaining it. Looking at the potential uses and the existing parking and probably adding no more than 14 additional spaces, if possible, if they could fit it in.
Yeah, how many spots is that now, you guys know?
I don't know exactly.
I can count them up, because
I think it's a 40-ish range.
we have
40.
right
Yeah,
here.
I mean, you're running
No, it's not.
T-ball, 2 T-ball teams. I mean, when they've done play-downs there, it's all 4 teams. I mean, that place gets packed up. It's gotta be at least 40 spots.
I had it today. I just don't have time.
More than that, this,
You have that lower section
Right.
behind the courts and stuff too.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's a couple of challenges here. We want to definitely bring Mixter back to a condition that will provide recreation for years to come and be usable, and making sure we're putting the right materials there and the right structures there and what's necessary to meet the needs of the users and the Parks Commission and everyone else. We also want to make sure that Woodland Park is viable and, again, look at the subsurface conditions. What are the potential solutions for drainage on that? You know, looking at potential reconfiguration there, additional fencing, additional netting, getting rid of the tennis and basketball courts, siting this deck hockey area, and how much space that's gonna take up, and again, what materials will be used, that kind of
choose deck hockey?
Well, it was just kind of an idea based on, you know, what's in the area, and there isn't one anywhere near here other than Leominster is the closest one.
Yeah, it's right off Route 2.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, it wasn't necessarily listed in the survey that the 170 people took. They all want a pool. But
This
the,
was actually the pool committee.
you know, but we thought, you know, we prohibit the use of that at the courts, the tennis courts and basketball courts for obvious reasons. And, you know, I mean, not that it's heavily used, but we think it's something that people would use a lot of, and there's some revenue opportunity there.
Bring in the leagues.
Anything we do as far as revenue opportunity, I don't think that should be in our, and we shouldn't even, this is facilities we're building for the residents of West Boylston. Any revenue that we're gonna get is gonna be peanuts compared to what these things cost. I don't think that that should even enter into our, you know, our thoughts. What do the town residents need? If we can get additional revenue, great, but and as far as decision-making process, I wanna know what the town needs, not what can we rent out to other people outside of town.
Sure.
So, what are our next steps? One, obviously, we have a preliminary estimate from a landscape architecture or civil engineering firm on Mixter. We can get that updated. And again, it's not for this committee to decide what is the use, that kind of thing. It's what the Parks Commission is bringing or requesting of us. We would need to solicit a preliminary estimate on woodland as well. Something similar to what we received back in September on Mixter.
Woodland, the idea is we're gonna get rid of this, put deck hockey and just leave this field the way it is and just fix it right. Let's leave the field the way it is, you're not gonna reconfigure anything.
Correct.
It may have to be tweaked certain ways, but.
But we're not,
Become elevated, but, yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
that's gonna be expensive.
drainage, again, we've gotta look at what the subsurface conditions are.
Well, things under there.
Yeah, as long as
I'd like to know what the possibility of leaving it there and raising it with some, like, you know,
Just-
8 inches or so, like some kind of crushed gravel or something,
Or
drainage,
And
loom.
just build the whole
and
thing up
build it
3
up.
feet.
And it's because right now,
It's in a big bowl.
it does do something, right? I mean, it's not the greatest, it will pool. So my thought is if you bring like a foot of material and put drainage in there, that should be able to handle most of it. And then you're creating another layer, a whole foot before it's gonna be a problem again.
It's a pretty good idea, actually. I don't know what the cost to truck the material.
I don't know if it's, you know.
Can't be any worse than trying to truck that stuff out, what's ever underneath
Yeah,
it.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I'm sure you
if
could-
out's more expensive than in.
If there's organics in the soil, then, yeah.
And from an engineering perspective, I just don't know that it's possible based on what's there. So that's my only.
Well, there's a big, what do you figure, a 4-foot drop from the parking lot to here?
At least.
Down here, it's level.
I don't know. Well, I mean, if you look at woodland, it's not level to woodland.
Here, I would say in somewhere 7 to 8 feet.
But from the edge of, you know, it slopes down like, well, it's flat. But what I'm saying is that if you raise this up, now you're talking retaining wall here to keep that, I'm
I don't know.
guessing.
So I haven't looked at it from that perspective, but that's still lower than the street.
This right here is lower than the street?
Way back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, because it's got the whole swell going up to the street.
Goes
Yep.
this way.
Right.
You have to wall
Been a
it
few years
somewhat
since we played on that.
or something, because you gotta keep it there.
I'm sure you need a wall. Yeah. Right.
You're gonna have to wall it no matter what, because if you're trying to keep it there, you're gonna have to have some form
Yeah,
of a
back
wall
side.
set up so that it
Unless-
stays.
Unless there's room to increase the slope.
Or we put a detention basin behind that, and that's where the runoff or the drainage would drain into the detention basin back there. But again, that's up to the engineers, you know, that's. what they
Grading of
pay
it.
for.
I mean, that's ultimately the biggest thing is the grade kind of
Yeah.
goes
And
into
crown
it.
it probably.
And
It's not
again,
crowned.
Right.
and again, we wanna limit
They
the,
sit in the right ground.
again, we wanna limit
If
any,
you wanted to make an ice skating rink all year round, yeah, it'd be good.
so I did a little bit of research that there are deck hockey arenas that get converted right to ice.
Oh, okay.
So there's
So
a
we could
potential for
possibly
that.
put the skating rinks there as well.
Exactly.
Now, you said covered but outdoor, I mean, is this gonna be a facility?
No,
No, deck
it
hockey's
would be
just
open,
open
outdoor area.
Open.
Okay, so, but you had said covered.
No, I didn't say
Oh.
covered, I said basically what
Enclosed,
it
I
would
think.
have, enclosed.
In-
So
Oh,
it-
closed,
It
okay.
would have walls, okay,
Plexiglass.
plexiglass walls that are removable.
Got it, okay.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it would be open 24/7 to the elements.
Yeah, it's easy to just, to make it into an ice rink.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Some
And
poly and,
I looked at that today too, and it's good for it, so.
Yeah.
So there's multi-use there. But again, solving the problems that we have with woodland that have been ongoing for years and years and years and years. Because it is at such a low elevation, everything's draining into it, and there's nowhere for it to go. It's not infiltrating because
Right.
it's like my
Soils that
backyard,
are
it's
underneath.
forestry.
you know, would have to come up, you know, with something of that nature, so. All right, so. Are we in agreement that we would try to seek out a preliminary proposal for site design permitting, construction documents, and construction support for woodland? To see if we can get an estimate, and then we can use that as a basis to move forward if we were to make a request to CPA.
Ideally, yeah, I'd like to be able to ask for that money for the October town meeting.
I don't have any problem doing that, but the question I have is, we just did this however many years ago, spent all this money on the plans for Goodale Park. There's no money to build that, why are we gonna spend more money on the plans for these parks? And when we couldn't get the one we did 5 years ago, there was no money to build it. Why are we doing more studies, to do more plans? I don't like to use the word study. Why are we getting more engineering drawings for the other parks when we already have them for the first park and there's no money for the first park?
Okay, so I hope I can make a comment on that. Phase one of Goodale Park is $10 million.
5 years ago.
However
many years ago?
Not far, 3 years.
3 years ago.
3 years
Okay.
ago. So that's $10 million. There's not $10 million in the CPA. There are enough funds in the CPA right now, based on my professional experience in public construction, that we could accomplish these two projects with less than what is in the CPA
Okay.
right now.
I agree, that's a good answer.
That's my answer. I've been in public construction for over 30 years. And whether it's buildings or whether it's chapter 30 work, horizontal, 149, vertical, all different wastewater treatment plants, whatever. What we're looking at here, the CPA funds can accommodate that,
It's not nearly the magnitude
what
of
I'm-
Goodale.
is what I'm saying. Yeah, it's
Yeah, that magnitude is-
Goodale is apples and oranges.
Yeah, that magnitude
Because
of Goodale.
we would have to bring
Because you're bringing in a whole
the
new
street
football.
all the way down to Crescent.
That's gonna be the first question that's asked though.
Right. Understand.
Magnitude of design and.
Who is going to be the advocate if we go for an ask at town meeting? Is it gonna be the Parks Commission or Parks Facilities Committee?
I
Or
mean,
a
I guess
combination of
It
both?
probably should be
or
a
what?
combination of both, even though, the Parks Commission did ask the Parks Facility Committee.
But I'd like to
project.
involve the Finance Committee from the get-go.
Yeah, I think we need that buy-in.
The
as- as
finance committee, what they're gonna say, based on my experience of being on the finance committee, is something along the lines of, this is a discretionary spending, yes, it involves dollars. This is not it's a good use of money, or it's a bad use of money. We should buy this truck because we're gonna get a return on investment if we buy these, stainless steel dump body trucks. No brainer, buy them like we did last town meeting, we're gonna get a return on investment, they're not gonna rot out. This is gonna be
But this money's gonna only be spent on certain events.
but the finance committee, if they opine on it, is gonna say, this is something that the town, this is a enhancement to the town, that this is a decision that the town is going to spend the money on it, and it is not really there's no financial recommendation. This is generally they may say, yeah, we think it's a great idea, they may all vote for it personally, but from my experience on the finance committee, I think that the position they would take would be something along the lines of, it's not a good financial move, it's not a bad financial move, it's using funds for the betterment of the town, and is this how you wanna use the CPA funds that can go to these three pots of things? Do you wanna use it for, and first the CPA's gotta recommend it too, obviously.
Right.
Do you want to use it for this? And I don't think that they would say, yes, this makes financial sense, or no, this doesn't make financial sense, because there's no return on investment,
I
dollar
think there was
wise.
a neutral standpoint.
Yeah, I think that, I'm guessing,
The return on investment is to the taxpayers.
but there's no dollar and cents return on investment. This is your town, this is for the betterment of the town. You know, there's no return on investment on this building.
On an asset.
Well, on this building,
There's a slight return on investment in Woodland, cause right now we spend a lot of DPW dollars
And
keeping it up and trying to
and there was a
repair
slight
it.
return on investment on the senior center, because we're no longer renting. But this building, we owned a building, granted it was falling down, it was knocked down. This wasn't, hey, we're taking something off the rolls, this is something, we need a town hall, we can't be in this dilapidated building. And, you know, we're not a third world country here, we're a fairly affluent town.
But
We
it
shouldn't have
depreciates though. All right, so, all right.
But at the same token, it's for the kids, so it is a viable,
But I don't think you're gonna get the finance committee, maybe I'm wrong, when I was on, years ago when I was
Yeah.
on it, this is the discussions that I remember having on stuff like this. I don't think the finance, and I certainly can't hurt to ask them, but I don't think they're gonna say, yes, this makes financial sense, or no, this doesn't make financial sense.
My recommendation
did
is to
you-
bring them in anyway,
Yeah.
whether they care or not.
is that what you mean?
Because
It's
that-
kind of a,
I think personally, that this is part of what their board should be a part of. And whether they wanna have an opinion or not, you know what, it affects them themselves, their children, their families, their extended families or whatever. And you know what, it doesn't hurt to bring them in.
No, the more people you can get on board,
that's right.
the better.
Okay. All right, so,
So should we, readdress the, discussion about one or two projects?
it's a timing thing. We gotta work out the timing.
I mean, I think, you know, scheduling is a challenge now as is. We have to get a little creative with certain things, to save money and to try to get this done as quick as possible for all the sets of groups that would take advantage. I think we can work out scheduling.
And do them both.
Yeah, I mean, I want both of them done, right? And I think the best way to do it, if we can save money by doing them together, I think we could figure out the scheduling. And I think we need to. I mean, it might be a little, you know, we have to get a little bit creative, a little bit specific right now. We have some leeway with the user groups that use it as far as when they ask for it. We might need more specific times so that we can schedule to prevent possible conflict, because we might have to use the field for multiple organizations instead of just saying, all right, we won't put these people there. I mean, I think, I understand, we have a shortage now, we're down one. Essentially, one of the solutions was to move soccer to the practice field for football, and it works. The only problem is there's a little overlap in time on days, right? So we got them there, it works. I'd like to get them off, because we don't want the field used that much, but we figured out a way to make it work temporarily, right? So I think we can possibly accommodate that. I mean, if it means using the game field a little bit more than we do, then
This is just my personal opinion. The work at Mixter, that's easy. That's not,
I have no idea.
that's a
It's not-
short,
I don't,
that's a short period of time.
well, I mean,
Depending on what
the
contractor.
contractor there is, I'll tell you, it wasn't a short period of time for him, although he decided to hydro seed over rocks.
Yeah. All right.
Literally.
This
I
is,
know, I saw it.
this is basic site work, drainage work, utility work. I mean, it's not rocket science here, okay? And we may have to have some relocation of some utilities, whatever, blah, 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 blah. We're not talking in terms of dollars and man-hours and that kind of thing. That can be done in a short period of time. Just in my personal opinion. What we're talking about at Woodland's a little bit different. Again, it all depends on what's there and what we would have to do for drainage, whether, we're talking French drain around the field, bringing the field up, new detention basin, blah, 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 ripping out, and, looking at what the impact of additional parking is gonna be, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's a little bit more involved there. But, it's all a matter of timing. We can work it through what the schedules are for the user groups in the town. Have them constructed at the same time, as long as it's not impacting, what you guys do. That's one.
I mean,
school of thought.
Woodland's gonna have an impact no matter what,
No matter
right?
what.
So it's like, we're gonna close it down and do it, and that's it. I mean, we're gonna have to just.
Yeah,
bite
it's
the
gonna
bullet
be
and
a
do it.
problem.
Yeah, Woodland, you have to bite the bullet on it, no matter what, you gotta shut it down for whatever, no
Right.
matter the period you do it, even if you start in the winter time, you're still gonna,
I mean, you need a growing season, right? You need.
Yeah, but I mean, if the answer on Woodland is you're gonna build it up and not tear it up, I mean, you could actually go through the whole season and get everything down except for topsoil in the wintertime and then it grows and not miss as much.
Right.
depending on what you get back.
Again,
I have no idea, I mean.
No, like,
you don't want frozen subsurface materials though. We gotta make sure the grades are right and everything else.
it all depends on what they come back, like, if you engage that landscaping company, come back and then saying like, this is your best bet for this field. This is what's gonna work long-term, so you don't have the puddles at the center, like it is now, and that back half being
Right.
a swamp.
Yeah, right, which we know it is.
Yeah.
All right, so, action items. Updated estimate on mixer. See if we can get a preliminary estimate on design and, engineering and, subsurface investigation.
I'm sure these people be willing to do the same.
Yeah, just get something preliminary, so we have a basis for an ask to CPA, right? So we have it all backed up. I think that's where we go right now. Do we wanna have any individual members start investigating certain aspects of these jobs? Looking at who are the manufacturers that are out there for deck hockey arenas? What really, what are our options in terms of dugouts for mixture field? Concrete bases with pressure treated wood, with roofs, with corrugated roofs above them, or do we wanna go some other way? So when we sit down with a potential designer, we have our ducks in a row, being able to tell him what that scope of work we're looking for.
Wouldn't the designer make recommendations?
He will, but we've gotta be able to articulate
Yeah, you still have to tell them what you want.
back to them, what exactly do you want? This way, we said, we've done a little homework, this is
If
what
you
we
like,
like.
if you like
There
the
are so many different
dugouts,
sizes
softball
of
field.
deck hockey
Right.
decks, so, I mean, what do we wanna accommodate? What does the Parks Commission wanna accommodate? A full size? Or three-quarter size, or, that's all comes from the eye,
Right.
so.
And what fits?
And that'll be on him, what fits.
Yeah. But it might be, we want a full size for the 3/4 fits. Right, so.
Right, exactly, so. I mean, we haven't
There's
met,
quite a bit of space around that too.
I think so, that's why I think it's very feasible.
I mean, there's that whole back corner that's dead, that doesn't get used for
Yeah.
anything, it just.
talking about?
Chicks
Yeah, I mean, there's,
acres.
no, but I'm talking, if this is gonna be the footprint, there's there's room here and there's room there that can, and really, I mean,
You take the
we're not
basketball
cutting into
court,
parking, but.
Yeah.
Here's my question to the Parks Commission. Do you want that lighted?
Well, to one of my previous statements today, I wanna know what that costs before I
Okay, so
decide. I mean,
that
if it
would be an
becomes a feasible thing to do for the money, then yes.
In the
If not,
scope of work, we'll ask him
Yeah,
for an alternate pricing on, like, on that.
maybe we can entertain that in both fields.
Do we, and,
Well, mixture's never been lighted before, so,
Yeah, I mean, neither is Woodland, right?
well, I can tell you it
The
was
only
almost
problem is gonna be
$1,000
right
for
here.
the lights at,
That dumps off, like foundations down here to Jimmy,
8 years ago.
Miola's house. It's just, that's flush.
Solar possibilities
right
are
now.
with a small
So
solar.
if we start adding up what we
It's
have
not-
to come up definitely over
it's,
here.
it's not so much
No, I know,
of the power,
Like cost
Oh,
more, like if you
yeah.
go with
it's,
some.
it's the light fixtures themselves.
Oh, yeah, no, I know light poles are extremely expensive and everything like that, and I was just thinking if there's a way to tap into that lighting being done solar, if that was.
You're still gonna pay for the lights.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that,
Oh.
I'm saying long-term cost of it, right? So you're talking about putting in lighting, which isn't a fee that
Yeah,
anyone
cause
pays for
we
right
pay
now.
a decent amount of money
We,
right now
we,
for,
we turn the lights off traditionally in town at 10,
right?
right? So in the fall, you're talking the sun going down at 7:30, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So 7 to 10, you may have a 3-hour lighting period there.
Yeah, and then certain times a year, we do it only during weekends, not at night, and then, this time of year, it's every night.
yeah, but this time of year it's every night, it's only an hour and a half.
Right.
Exactly,
If the time works.
exactly.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother ballgame.
So our challenge is, we got two projects, we don't have two projects, we potentially have one project at two different sites, or we can call it two projects, wherever you guys wanna do. Obviously, we have a short window of time to make the ask to the CPA, but we gotta do our homework first.
So if you're looking to do an ask to the CPA for the money for, I don't think the timing's gonna happen.
Engineering design.
I'm told we still have some time, but we need to go.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
now.
we have, I mean, there's, I actually am planning on scheduling a CPA meeting. Right before I came here, I sent Nancy an email, we have 2 CPA projects that we need to evaluate. I sent her an email saying, when do you need the articles for the CPA? And it's probably,
We have till at least September, right?
I would say mid-September timeframe, so we have to, this is a big rush to get this done, if we're gonna get the engineering money.
In the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would estimate that we could get an updated, cost estimate on Mixter as well as Wiggle.
Okay, if you can do it in the next 2 to 3 weeks, yeah, then.
Do we need to have a meeting to vote on the dollar amount, or?
After the fact.
Yeah, I think we should discuss.
Okay.
And
I
then
mean, the
we would.
CPA application is not earth-shattering, it's not a big
You
deal.
just have to do a narrative and.
Yeah, it's not, 2 pages.
But I think this is something that the taxpayers will get behind. Obviously, if they have visited Mixter Field and seen what's there, and obviously if they have visited Woodland Park and they know the issues that go on every single year there, I mean, it's time. If we don't address them now, we're gonna lose the field. Right? We've already lost Mixter. And you don't wanna lose Woodland. So, and again, your comment with the Widow Park master plan, again, we discussed getting our rep, getting our senator
Yeah,
behind our recent,
I'm gonna send that,
behind our
Here.
recent letter that you, the Board of Selectmen, sent to the new Secretary of Environmental Affairs. And, because that money was allocated for Goodell Park.
well,
If they would just release it.
the problem is it wasn't allocated, we were
That's-
trying to get it
that's-
allocated.
That's the problem. And the old
Secretary of Environmental Affairs chose not to, so.
I think it's probably more of the governor's choice than it is the Secretary of Environmental Affairs choice as to what gets released.
I'd sure like to look at what Shrewsbury got. Okay, it's just my personal opinion. Okay, would you agree to meet in, what's good, the next meeting in 2 weeks, 3 weeks? That flow looks good. Obviously, time is of the essence.
The week of the 12th?
So we're looking at
The 12th, there is a Parks Commission meeting.
August
12th would be a Parks Commission meeting, so I don't know if you want to
Do after that?
do it after or before, what the preference is.
what's your guys' availabilities on Saturdays?
Which one?
Any of them?
I'm not around the 10th. I'm not around the 17th.
Okay. So the 12th is a Monday.
Yeah.
Do you think we wanna meet before or after the park? I mean, you're gonna run this by the, Parks Commission's already on board.
The Parks Commission's on board, they're asking to move forward, basically. So, I don't know that we need to be before the parks for any particular
Whatever we
reason.
decide, we need to bring back to Parks to get an affirmative vote approving. And then.
Yeah, but I think that would be not necessarily the money to get the designs, I think that would be the designs,
Okay.
The
right?
Parks
I think
Commission
the
has made the request of us,
Right.
we have the Parks Commission rep, if, I don't,
Two of
if
us.
we say yes, two of them, if we say yes,
We're
we
good.
don't have to go back to the Parks Commission, we said yes to the request.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
That's my thing, I think right now, we need money to figure out how much it's gonna cost, right, to do engineering design work. So I don't think the Parks Commission is going to have any objection to asking for money to do that work.
We'll just bring it up at the next meeting, that's all.
It's Tuesday the 13th work,
I can do that.
because that's generally a non-town meeting day. Karen, Keith, does that work for you?
When is it?
Tuesday the 13th?
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Work for you, Pat?
I'll try to make it work. Tuesday the 13th.
August 13th at 7 PM?
Mhm.
Okay.
We're saying 7, I'm changing the selectmen's meeting to this, I'm gonna ask, and I gotta think of everybody's word, I'm gonna change the selectmen's meeting to the 6th. Is there anybody, I mean, can you make, do you still work late hours? Oh, it's football, so that's why you're gonna try to make 7, because it's football, so
Right.
never mind.
Okay. Are there any other items anybody would like to bring up? In relationship to what we discussed tonight, or any matters that we have a concern?
I only have one, and that would be the, cover the dugouts in high school baseball field. Not a big deal.
But that's a Parks Commission.
Yeah, it's a Parks Commission thing, that's not a
Not a
facility.
facility.
Well, no, you asked if there's anything else with this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know?
I'm sorry.
That's why I threw that out. I mean, those poor kids have to stand in the rain, the snow, the heat, and everything else.
Is there
It's
money,
pathetic.
do you guys know how much it would cost to cover them?
You have a
Not
revolving
much.
fund, right?
Huh?
You have a revolving fund.
And, I mean, if there's no money in the revolving fund, the CPA money can now be used for existing parks.
That's it, we can now?
Yeah.
Can now be used.
Just can't use it for
improvements to
turf.
You
existing
can, oh,
parks.
oh.
Did the CPA pay for some netting?
Yeah, they
There?
paid for a lot of netting
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah, that,
So,
Almost
High
all of
school.
our netting and fencing, there's been a lot of netting and fencing projects in the last several
Yeah.
years.
all right, well, now we can. All right,
Okay. Anything else? Is there a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Is there a second? Additional discussion, hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
I.
Have a good evening.